Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll take a look at how the team is shaping up for Game Week 7, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 6. So 87 points in total and moved up to just inside the top 200,000. It was a really good week in terms of rank rise and points, but the team itself, it was only really a few players that picked up the points. Obviously, triple captain Haaland there is pretty much all the points at 48. Obviously got those late goals. It was, feeling like it wasn't going to be much of a success really. And then, he's just inevitable at the moment. And to get that many points on a triple captain in a single game was, just perfect. So can't ask for more than that. Then obviously Alderete as well was quite fortunate getting 17 points from a 4 million defender. But I'm just glad I got that one right over Mukiele. That was the choice between the two. And it just made more sense going for Alderete as I'd called him out a lot this season. And you can just see he's one of them that he likes to, attack corners. And he's just had very good DEFCON numbers. So really happy I got him in and got that 17 pointer. Obviously playing him ahead of Barnes was, it made sense that Barnes would probably be benched. But I think I'm really happy that I made that choice. Obviously, Senesi picked up DEFCONs again and got an assist. He's just a points machine at the moment. And had DEFCONs from Lacroix and Anderson. But otherwise it was pretty much, not much there to talk about other than Haaland really. So another captaincy success for Game Week 6. So 6 in a row, pretty happy with that. Now looking ahead to Game Week 7, I've got one transfer in the bank. I'm probably not going to use it this week, but I have got my eye on a couple of players moving forward. Certainly Barnes has got to go out of the team. He's just, a lot of budget tied up in someone that's just, I'm not going to play anymore because he's definitely not got a guaranteed place in that Newcastle 11, especially with Gordon back now from suspension. And I did have my eye on Gordon actually instead of Barnes, and obviously he got suspended. But he took a couple of penalties then, like in the Champions League, and that sort of cemented him as number one penalty taker there. And he's just one of those players. He's very consistent. Once you get him in, keep him for a long spell, and it usually just tick over every week, pick up goals and assists. And obviously with the penalties now, it makes him even more valuable. It's a little bit expensive at 7.4, but they've got a nice fixture run with Forest at home, Brighton away, Fulham home, West Ham away, and Brentford away. It's obviously 3 away games, but I think sometimes Newcastle play quite well on the break, and obviously Gordon's the sort of perfect weapon for a counter-attacking game. But I think with the budget, it's unlikely I'll go for him unless I decide to keep Mateta, who I'm likely to upgrade, as I'll talk about in a moment. But the other option I'm looking at is Paquetá at West Ham. I've talked him up quite a lot in my other videos. I just think he's another nice all-rounder with lots of routes to points. At 5.9 million, he's on penalties for West Ham. He played as a number 10 under Nuno in the first game. And I think, he's going to be the main man for them. He's going to be getting in the box a lot, like he has been most of the season so far. Good for DEFCONs. And like I said, he's got penalties as well. So, lots of routes to points. He took some corners on Monday night as well against Everton. So potentially he's on the set pieces there as well now. I think Ward-Prowse was left out of the squad, so that might open that up to him as well. Good fixtures for West Ham in the next 5. Obviously, the Arsenal game's not ideal, but after that, they've got a nice little run. So, I think for someone as a long-term cheap midfielder, he's going to be a nice option, and that's probably where I'm leaning towards at the moment. But, I've got another week to assess and, see what I think after seeing one more week of games. Because I'm also looking to change one of my forwards in Mateta up to either Gyökeres or João Pedro. Now, in an ideal world, I'd like both of them, but the way I've got my team structured at the moment, it's going to be difficult to get both. So, I think Arsenal have got some nice fixtures. Although I don't think, obviously West Ham's not an easy game now with Nuno going there. He's going to tighten them up. And Fulham away is never an easy game. And Crystal Palace are one of the best defences in the league so far. So I don't think it's a dead cert, the next 5 for Arsenal. Obviously the Burnley and Sunderland games, you'd expect some goals. But I think Gyökeres, if he is on penalties, which we think he is, then he should be the talisman for Arsenal. And I know he's not scored many goals so far, but I think Arsenal had, quite a tough run to start the season. So he's looking sharper each week. The games I've seen him, he's certainly improving week on week. So yeah, he's the one that's there to finish the chances for them. So I think in these easier fixtures, they're going to create a few more chances, and he should be on the end of them. And then Pedro, I think a lot of people are selling him at the moment. I think it's he's had a hard start in terms of minutes. They obviously had the injury to Delap and Palmer. He's had to play a lot of minutes, and I think now that he's going to have issues with, he's obviously getting the rest from the Brazil. He's not going to be called up by Brazil, and he's going to be suspended, I think, as well in the Champions League, I believe. Have I got that right? So he's going to get some rests here and there. So he's definitely going to get the minutes for Chelsea. You can see after this Liverpool game, Forest, Sunderland, Spurs and Wolves, 4 decent fixtures with plenty of chances for him to score some points in those. So it's just weighing up, really. Do I want to get that Arsenal attacker in, or, do I go for Pedro and go for Chelsea? I think, yeah, I'm going to see one more week, see, what I think both teams, who's going to be the main man for the two teams. Because I think Saka and Palmer, obviously, who'd usually think of are the ones to go to. And that's why I wanted to go at the start of the season. But obviously things change. So, yeah, one more week, see where we end up. And if I end up keeping Mateta for a little bit longer, I might go to Gordon. Or, if I do want Gokras or Pedro, then I'll bring Paquetá in, to free up the budget there. So then moving on to the team for this week. Pope is at home to Forest. Now, we've seen Newcastle's defence has been one of the best in the league so far. And they held out pretty well against Arsenal for most of the game. And Pope had an excellent game there, kept Arsenal out for a long period. He's been very good for, saves and bonus points. And obviously Newcastle have had quite a few clean sheets this season. I think it's 4 out of the 6 games. So I think Forest coming to St James's. I know they're more attacking now under Ange, but I still think they're going to be, very difficult to break down Newcastle still. They look really solid. Livramento going out of the team almost, I think, makes them more defensive. If Burn ends up playing left back, you're almost going to have 3 centre backs, even if they play a back 4. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident there's a good chance for a clean sheet there for Pope. And Senesi is at home to Fulham. Now, Senesi has just been crazy for the DEFCON points. He's hit them in every game. And, he's hit them comfortably with good numbers. I think probably should be in most people's teams, I think, with the fact he's still under 5 million. And, Bournemouth are keeping a few clean sheets. He's hitting these DEFCONs. And he's getting these attacking returns as well. I mean, they're probably not sustainable, but, yeah, just been a brilliant pick on my Game Week 3 wildcard. And I think Fulham at home is a tricky game. Fulham never give anyone an easy game, but I think, yeah, he's always likely to hit the DEFCON. So you're starting on 4 points, and yeah, anything beyond that is a bonus, really, at his price. Then Tarkowski is at home to Crystal Palace. Now, I think Everton have been a bit hit and miss, really, so far this season. The attack has looked good, but the defence hasn't quite been up to what we'd expect from a Moyes team so far. Home game against Palace, I think that's going to be, a tight game. Palace are generally not going to try and push the play themselves. They're going to look to play on the counter, look to soak up pressure. I mean, Everton have become more of a possession side in a way this season, but I still think they're not going to, especially in a home game, they're going to try and push the game, but they're also going to, try and be a little bit safe, especially with the number of goals they've been conceding this season. And Tarkowski has had DEFCON in 5 out of the 6 games so far, and I think, Palace like to put the ball in the box, so I think there's going to be a good chance he's going to pick it up again here, as he's, usually one of the main men underneath, heading out. So, yeah, but I'd never back anyone to get a clean sheet against Palace. I think Palace are just playing so well at the moment. They're really well set up. So, just looking for the DEFCONs here. Start on 4 points and, maybe there's something more. And on the other side of that game, Lacroix is away at Everton. Now, he's hit DEFCON, fairly regularly this season. I think that's 3 or 4 out of 6 games so far. And again, I think it's another chance here They're probably going to soak up the pressure, Palace. I think, they're going to look to hit on the counter away from home. They're just so solid defensively. You can see that just drilled. The setup there is, just very, very consistent. And Lacroix is always, one of the main, last line of defense there. He's the one that's going to head the ball away. So, I'd expect to see DEFCONs again here for him. And the way Palace are playing at the moment, the defence is so good. You wouldn't put it past them getting a clean sheet. And Alderete is away to Man United. Now, obviously, I don't think going to Old Trafford for Sunderland, I don't think that's a good fixture. So I've got no expectation here of a clean sheet. I mean, potentially they could win the game because you never know with United. But yeah, I'd certainly expect them to concede. But he's obviously hitting DEFCON in most of his games, which, again, that's the theme of my team really is I think that consistency, if you can hit it most weeks, you're going to get more points than you would from clean sheets. So at just 4 million, or he's 4.1 now, I believe, he's gone up. We're just looking for DEFCONs there really and see if we get anything else. But obviously always a threat of set pieces, and United have been poor defending those. So yeah, I think this is just a stopgap really, where I've got Barnes sat on my bench, and this will be one more game for Alderete before he ends up probably on my bench most weeks. And moving on to the midfield, Salah is away to Chelsea. I'm starting to lose patience now with Salah. 6 weeks, he scored a few points, but still doesn't look like, the Salah that we know and expect. He does like to turn up for some of these big games, so, don't put it past him getting something from this. But I think the way that he's playing at the moment, you can see he's not quite up to his normal level. And Liverpool are certainly still sort of figuring out, I think, what they're going to be this season. They've obviously made a lot of changes from the team last year. So I think they're still, slowly figuring it out. And potentially Salah isn't going to be the highest share of the goals, especially with Isak there and now as well. So at his price, 14.5 million, maybe it's too much for Salah. And I'm not likely to captain him in many of the weeks upcoming, but they do have a good run of fixtures from game week 12 onwards, I believe it is. So yeah, I think just got to watch a few more games from him and just see if we see any signs. But at the moment, I'm not sure he's going to be in my team too much longer, the way things are going. And Fernandes has Sunderland at home. Now, I did have him down as my captain for this week when I sort of initially made my plans for the season, and especially when I was looking on my wild card in game week 3, it made sense to have him in because I think this was one of the weeks he would be my captain. But obviously with the way Haaland's playing at the moment and watching United last week, it's probably it certainly is a lot more risky, but it's a lot less likely I will go there now. A home game though against a newly promoted side, albeit, a team that's I think much better than the one that got promoted. So I think we have to see Sunderland as sort of a, upper, lower half table team. So I think if Haaland wasn't in such great form, I think I probably would still go there just because he's got the roots to points and he always turns up for United. If he has a bad game, he usually turns up again the next week. But I think as a team, I just don't trust United at the moment. And with Haaland there just the form he's in, I just don't think it makes sense to, go against him at the moment. So probably vice captain for Fernandes. But yeah, you'd always expect him to get something against a lesser side. Then Reinders is away to Brentford. Always a tricky game for City when they go away to Brentford. Well, good, tricky game for any team, I think. But, if Brentford do set up well, it's going to be... I don't think there's going to be many goals in the game. But Reinders, like I keep saying, if he makes those runs in from deep, from midfield, gets himself into the box, he's always got a chance of scoring. And, it's the kind of game where something like that's going to be needed. So, yeah, no, I'm still happy with him. Obviously blanked last week, but I think he's a quality player there. And for the price, if he keeps playing the minutes, I think he'll stay there in my team. And Anderson is away to Newcastle. And he's been great this season. Played really well, even for England as well, Anderson. Very good for the DEFCON, so we're expecting to see that. I think it's 15 or more in the 3 games under Ange so far that he's hit on the DEFCON, so he's hitting it comfortably. And he's, playing a lot further forward as well. So Newcastle away is obviously a tough game, but the way that, Ange likes to set up with just super attacking team, there's always a chance of goals. So, yeah, I'm really optimistic on Anderson's, chances of good points. I think he's going to be a long-term pick. I think, he's starting on 3 or 4 points a week. And I think some attacking returns will be around the corner fairly soon. Moving on to the forwards, Haaland is away to Brentford. Now, this has been a tricky fixture for him in the past. I think I mentioned it before they went away to Spurs in game week 2, I believe it was. Saying that, Thomas Frank's Brentford, they'd always have a way to set up against Haaland so that he just wouldn't get the chances in the game. And that's exactly what Spurs did when, they came up against Haaland. So I'm sure Keith Andrews, being part of the, Frank staff, he knows exactly what their plan was then, and they'll try to do the same. I do think Haaland just looks so much sharper this season. He's back to where he was when he first joined City. Whatever injuries he had before, I think looks like he's shaken off, and he just looks that much sharper at the minute. So it's only going to take 1 second of lack of concentration or mispositioning, and he's going to be in, and he's going to finish when he gets in. And I made the mistake, when was he joined City, 2 or 3 years ago? I made the mistake of just ignoring him and not bringing him in, and I got punished so badly. And it's just when a player like this is on a run, especially of his quality, you just don't back against it. So he's going to be captain again for me this week. No point going against it. I had the great gain last week off the triple captain. So yeah, I'm just going to stick with him again. Then Mateta is away to Everton. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Everton haven't looked that solid this season. And they're obviously getting used to their new stadium as well. So, there's not so much of a home advantage when you're still learning how things are at the new stadium. Mateta's been really unlucky the last few weeks. He's had quite a few chances, but some good saves from the keeper. And, he hit the bar last week against Liverpool. He keeps putting himself in the positions and, he's going to take the chances. We know he's a good finisher from what we've seen in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years. And yeah, he should get some chances because Palace have been very efficient this season and chance creation, even if they don't have as much of the ball. So he's potentially going to leave my team next week as I'm looking to get Gyökeres or Pedro, as I mentioned earlier. But if he does score a few in this one, I may be tempted to keep him because I do like him as a player. So in summary then, I'm going to captain Haaland again. I think there's no point going against him the way he's playing. I think it's pretty obvious. Obviously, Fernandes, Sunderland at home is a good fixture, but you can't trust United enough at the minute to back against Haaland. So Fernandes will be vice-captain. Barnes will be going next week, most likely. So there's no point playing him. He's going to be benched. I think he'll get limited minutes again. And yeah, we'll reassess after international break and see what transfers we're going to make when that comes round. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.